Hello, I'm Ollie. This is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, given that it's Tag Tuesday, I'm doing a tag and I'm going to do the book collection tag. Okay, so this tag was created by Why the Book Wins. And I needed a tag video to do for Tuesday. I think I'm caught up on all the ones I've been tagged in. So I put out a plea on my community tab for people to recommend tags they'd like me to do. And this one was suggested by Books I'm Not Reading and Reading This Life. So thank you very much to them. And thank you to the creator of the tag as well. So there's only a few questions. It's not too long a tag. There are 8 questions. And I'm not going to tag anyone at the end of this because this is a tag that's been around for ages. So I'm assuming that most people who want to do it will have done it already. So anyway, without further ado, let me get through the questions. So the first one is, what book are you most proud to own? And I guess, so I'm a voracious book buyer and a voracious reader, but really I buy books to read them. I'm not a collector. And I think that will come out in my comments on this video. I don't buy books just to own them. I buy them to read them. So I do have answers for all of the all of the questions in this tag, and I've definitely got a shitload of books. But I don't consider myself to be a book collector as such. So anyway, so the book I'm most proud to own is one of these two. So either One Night or Un Chat Nommé Espoir, both of which were written by me. So I wrote a few years ago, I wrote a couple of novels, of which this is one, and a load of short stories. My most popular short stories were a series called A Cat Called Hope, of which I wrote 5 in the end. This is the French translation of the first 3 stories. So I think it's kind of neat that there's a French translation of it. It was done by someone I know who's French. But yeah, I'm most proud to own these books. These are the only ones that are available in paperback. All my other books are just Kindle only. But yes, it is nice to say that I have written a book and to feel the weight of it in my hand. I have to say I haven't read it for a very long time, so whether it's any good or not is another matter entirely. But yeah, so those are the books I'm most proud to own. Next question, what is a book that has slipped through your fingers, a book you wanted to buy but is just too expensive? So I can't think of a book that I've wanted to buy that's been too expensive. There are certainly books I haven't bought because I wasn't prepared to pay the asking price for them, but there's definitely not one that leaps out. And I tend to just set up eBay searches for books I want and wait until I see one at a decent price, and I'll talk a bit more about that later in the video. What I would say though is I used to have a huge collection of of all sorts of books, but particularly of like vintage UK horror paperbacks, so 80s horror paperbacks, all of which at some point got sold, or at one point got sold. So basically my parents didn't want them in their house anymore, and I was living in a 1-bedroom flat with my now wife, and we just didn't have enough room for them, so unfortunately I had to sell them. But I had a number of books in that collection that nowadays are quite rare, so it annoys me somewhat that I had to sell them, but such is life. And as I say, I'm not a collector. Most of the books, if I really wanted to read them, I'm sure I can find them on Kindle or something like that, so that's life. Next question then, what is the book you've paid most for, or the most expensive book you own? So I think I've got kind of a couple of different answers to this one. So I got this as a gift. I didn't buy it myself, but I think this is the most expensive book that I've ever bought or had bought for me. I think it's about 30 quid. And it's a very lovely Barnes & Noble, I think, edition of the complete Cthulu Mythos tales by Lovecraft. So it's, lovely illustrations, lovely gold edging to the pages. So yeah, it really is a very nice book, and I've read all the Cthulhu Mythos stories in the past in different editions, but I'm looking forward to reading them again in this because it's such a lovely tome. That said, I think these 2 books are probably worth more than that, so I didn't pay a lot of money for either of them. So this one, Ghastly Beyond Belief by Neil Gaiman and Kim Newman, I bought when it came out in the mid-80s. Looks like the going price was £2.50. and that was in the days of the netbook agreement, if anyone in the UK remembers the netbook agreement. So I definitely paid £2.50 for it. I think nowadays, I've not checked on eBay, but I think they go for, you know, kind of up to, well, between £50 and £100, probably that sort of price. Although my copy is very well loved and very battered, so I don't know if I'd get that for it, and I'm certainly not selling it. The other one, Chainsaw Terror by Nick Blake, which I have talked about on the channel before. So I managed to, by being patient, snag this copy for I think £8 or £9 from 8 Books. But when it goes on eBay, it goes again for, you know, kind of £75 mark, which is silly money for not terribly good, albeit quite rare paperback. Okay, next question. Do you budget for your book buying? The simple answer to that is no. I'm terrible with money. I don't budget for my book buying. I just, when I feel like buying a book, I buy a book. It's never, you know, it's never been problematic, shall we say, in terms of my finances. But yeah, I don't budget for it. Next question. What book do you have that you got for a screaming deal? Right, this is a good one. So I said earlier that I set up searches on eBay and wait for books to come up at a good price. So Let's Go Play at the Adams by Mendal, which I've done a review video on. I read this back in my teens, so I had this same edition back then, which I bought secondhand from a charity shop in the town I was living in. And that was one of the books that got sold in my big sell-off when I was in my 20s. So I wanted to read it again, but it was going for, like, you know, kind of, I think this was before the Valancourt edition was published. So you could only get old vintage editions. And it was going for like £30 or something like that. It was the cheapest I'd seen it. And I was like, there's no way I'm paying £30 for a book I've already read that, you know, might not even be as good as I remember it being. So I set up an eBay search, and lo and behold, at some point, one seller put up like 20 copies for, I think, £3 each or something like that. So I bought about 8 or 9 of them. I can't remember exactly how many. So I've still got a few lying around. But I gave one away in the giveaway that I did a little while ago on the channel, and I've given one away in a giveaway I did on Instagram a while ago, and that's what I do. I gift them to people, basically. I think I did sell a couple of them on eBay, but I felt a bit guilty doing that, really, given I bought them cheap. So yeah, I keep them around for special occasions, and then give them away to people. Apart from one copy, obviously, which I should keep for myself. Next question. What author do you own the most books of? That's definitely Ed McBain / Evan Hunter. So I think there's 55 books in the 87th Precinct series. I've got paper copies of almost all of them, so at least 50 of them. And then I've also got, I think, 6 or 7 of his Matthew Hope books, probably another 6 or 7 standalone books by him that were published under various names. A couple of things of his on my Kindle, and then I think 4 or 5 books published as under his real name, Evan Hunter. So what's that? So it's like 70 odd books by him, basically. I think second to McBain would be Stephen King. I'm trying to remember, because I only just did my Stephen King library tour a while ago, but I think it was 42 or no, it was 48 Stephen King books. So yeah, King is a fairly close second. I don't think anyone else comes close to either of those two. They're, you know, probably my 2 favourite authors in terms of the both how much I like them, but also the longevity of my liking of their books. Okay, next question. What book do you own the most editions of? So I don't know. As I said, I'm not a collector, so I'm not someone who buys multiple, you know, deliberately buys multiple editions of the same book. There are definitely some books I've got more than one copy of. So there's a few McBains that I've ended up with more than one copy of, but only ever 2. I don't think I've got more than 2 copies of any book, apart from Let's Go Play at the Adams, actually. So yeah, that's the answer. But yeah, aside from that, yeah, there's a few McBains where basically I've had a not particularly nice paperback copy, and a better copy's come up, you know, like a more vintage one or whatever. There are some books that I've got multiples of where I've bought like a job lot of books on eBay, and some of them are ones I've already got. And there's also, I have to say, a few books that I've got multiples of because I forgot that I had them and saw them in the charity shop and bought them. That's definitely true of some of the Jack Reacher books. I've got more than one copy of a few of those. But yeah, aside from that, I don't, as I say, I'm not a collector. I used to work with somebody, and I can't remember the number. But she was obsessed with the book Black Beauty, and she had like, I think, at least 300 copies of Black Beauty, like different editions of Black Beauty. So yeah, I'm certainly no, nothing like that. Okay, and final question: what is the most beautiful book you own? I think it's probably this Lovecraft one, which I showed already. I mean, certainly there are some, there are vintage paperbacks that I've got that I love. But they are battered old vintage paperbacks. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with this one. It's just such a nicely put together book. It's the only book like this that I've got. So I don't, someone like Michael K. Vaughan seems to have dozens of beautiful editions like this, but I don't have any. I don't have any apart from this one. So I do treasure this, and maybe at some point I will get I'll get more from other writers that I really like. But sadly, like McBain, I don't think there's anything like this from McBain. He's one of those writers who's kind of fallen out of the public eye for whatever reason. So for him, I just try and get the most contemporary paperback that I can. But yeah, so yeah, this lovely Cthulhu Mythos collection is my most beautiful book. So that's the tag done. As I said at the start, I'm not going to tag anybody else because I think most people have done this tag if they want to. But if you haven't done it and you're watching this, then feel free. Consider yourself tagged. As always, hope everyone's safe as being safe. I hope they're also well. And yeah, I always forget to say, if you enjoy my videos and you're not subscribed already, then please do subscribe, because A, it makes it easier for you, because you're more likely to get notified when I put up a new video. But B, it helps me out, because the more subscribers you have, the more YouTube likes you as a creator, which seems horribly shallow, doesn't it? But hey, that's the way it is. Anyway, cheerio, and I'll speak to you again soon.